Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Sorry about the delay. I was trying to find the cord for the mic that I like to use with this, and I couldn't find it this morning. So I was like, oh no. So greetings, everyone. Hello. I hope you all are doing well, especially if you're in the southeastern United States. It's so good to see you all this morning. Oh my goodness, so many people are here. Oh, I feel so bad now for being late. My sincerest apologies. So just saying greetings. Hello. We had a bit of the storm last night, but we are doing well today. So hi, Richie. Hi, Angel. Daritz. The road less taken. Hello from the UK. You say yes. I really hope King Charles follows the Queen of Denmark's example and removes Harry and his wife's titles. Yes. So I just thought for today, I mean, obviously we can talk about anything, but I just thought it was really interesting, kind of this controversy surrounding what's going on in Denmark and how it gives kind of Charles some courage to go in a certain direction. And yet at the same time, I think it also makes him really nervous because it hasn't gone super well, this whole rollout of the change in titles. It has not gone well in the slightest. So I think that worries him, I'm sure. Dorit says, is Pippa co-hosting with you? Yes, she is right over. She's she's going to the chair right now. So she is looking outside, monitoring our yard. So that is her, that is her little job. Yeah. Oh, yes. And she decides she heard me talking about her. So here she is. Here's Miss Pippa. She is very, very sweet. She likes to give kisses in the morning. So she's a little cuddle bug. Somebody asked, always Scrappy asked, if you mind, what do I do for a living? So I do kind of marketing. That's kind of what I do in writing too. So that is what I do. So this has been a fun little side project that I am absolutely loving, and it's grown so much faster than I thought it would. I'm amazed that I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers. That just seems absolutely incredible and insane. So yeah. All right. So let's look through here. So if you guys have a question, feel free to put in all caps. That kind of helps me as I'm scrolling through, and that just so it kind of pops out to me and I can see it. And so if you guys want to do that, that would be great. But like I said, so this kind of the big thing here this morning, or the kind of this week, has been this decision in Denmark to take away the prince and princess titles from the queen's grandchildren from her second son. So this is Prince Joachim. And apparently, I don't know if it just wasn't told to them well, or if they're kind of on the back end, they had agreed to it. And now that it's public, they're kind of putting the screws to the queen, making her feel really bad about it. It could go either way. I just thought it was really interesting in light of Harry and Meghan and what this could mean for them. Because at first I was like, oh, yes, Queen Margrethe, she's following the example of the rest of Europe. You know, this gives Charles more ammunition, those sorts of things. And now I'm looking at it going with this kind of fallout within the family. I'm sure Charles is thinking to himself, wait, I already don't have a great relationship with my son, and I don't want to make it worse. And it seems like this whole Denmark thing is not going well for Queen Margrethe. So I can totally see him also kind of hedging now and kind of being a bit worried about it too. So Amelia says, hi, Brittany, greetings from Malaysia. How are you? I am doing well. I am doing well. And Pippa is doing well too. She is enjoying the I think the lack of rain now and wind that makes her feel better. She wants to actually go outside now. Catherine says, my opinion, the family thought they could bully Queen Margrethe to not go through with it. I think that could be the case. I remember I meant to say it in the video and I kind of forgot to, that her kind of greeting the press and talking to them kind of after the news broke and stuff. She is very, very popular in Denmark. You know, her nickname is Daisy, and she's reigned for 50 years. So she's a very popular person. And she looked very unsettled and unsure as she talked to the press in that video. She looked very, very like, you could tell as she was like trying to backtrack. So I think that it's entirely possible that she's just, you know, kind of reeling that it's not going as well as she thought it would, or that, you know, they had this agreement and Prince Joachim and his, you know, ex-wife Alexandra and his, you know, current wife Marie are all kind of walking back now and saying how, you know, kind of, kind of humiliated they seem and they think they are, and those sorts of things. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see that. Lisa asks, or Lissa asks, how is Harry's relationship with the family now? So his relationship with the family, as far as we know, I mean, we see we look at his, let's see, what am I trying to say? We get all these articles from time to time that Harry is trying to do kind of X, Y, and Z, and he's, looking, Charles had this good feeling after he talked to Harry, but I just really don't think things are going, really well. I don't think the family talks to him much. I would say that is especially the case with William. I don't think William talks to Harry much at all. And again, it's not because they don't want to talk to Harry. I just think they're worried that what they say will end up in a book, in a reality TV show, in an interview. And so they just don't want to talk to him. And I think that is actually probably the feeling of the rest of the family, is like they would love to chat with him. They would love to engage with him, but they don't know when their kind gestures and their general feelings of support are going to be turned on its face, and they're going to be told, they're going to find their words splashed on the front of the New York Times. Nobody wants, I mean, who wants that? Who wants their family drama on the New York Times? I mean, I don't think any of us want our family drama on Facebook. You see people fighting on Facebook and you're like, really? Oh, come on, please don't do that. And so I think we can all appreciate that Harry and Meghan, what they're really doing is making things really, really hard for the rest of Harry's family to engage with him. So whereas I think generally the Windsors are all close, through the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, they displayed their warmth in, I think, an incredible way. And I think it really kind of proved the naysayers wrong, that they are this close family unit, that they are not cold, that Harry and Meghan's narrative is kind of fracturing. And I just kind of look at everything else and go, okay, so Harry and Meghan just kind of tended to look bad after that incident, after the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. And so I think Harry is obviously very separated from the rest of his family. Rennick Hereborn says, I remember when you only had around 2,000 subs. I remember that too. I remember, scrimping and trying to get, every one of, the subscribers I had. So I've been truly blessed, and I just have such an amazing, amazing group of people. You guys are all so, so kind and so sweet, and I really do appreciate it. And so Asma asks, does Prince Joachim remind you of Prince Harry? This is why you had 3 kids. Yeah, I do think, again, I would tell any heir to the throne, have 3 children. That way the 2 spares can commiserate with each other. I think when you have this dynamic where it's just 1 and 1, I think there's a lot of tension that can develop there, because it's only, through birth that you're not, the heir to the throne. And so I think that causes a lot of consternation. But I also think it's kind of weird and a bit strange that Denmark has pushed Prince Joachim and his family so far out. They basically forced them to go to France, and they kind of forced them out of the court. So I can kind of see there's been this long stretch of distancing between them, but I don't think it's done anybody super well. And it just, again, looks, I think, it's just not a great look. I really don't think it is. Stud Muffin asked, do you think Valentine Low's book will reveal more damaging for the Montecito? Yes. So we did have, the Daily Mail now is coming out with bits about Harry and Meghan as well. We got basically it was a rehash of everything already in the Times. The added addition in the article we got yesterday was the Wild About Harry story, that Meghan was enraged. She thought it was racist, because I think everything she sees is racist. And when you start doing that, you can never not see it. It's like, if a server treats you badly that day, they're racist. Well, they could have been having a family problem at home. There could have been another issue. The kitchen could have been behind. It could have had nothing to do with the color of your skin and everything to do with other outside forces. But if you look through your entire life in that lens, that is all you end up seeing, I think. And so I imagine that's the case for Meghan. And I think it also, too, just gave her this additional leverage and really played into the media narrative that kind of started in about 2016. And it's kind of continuing to go, but I think it's sort of starting to peter out a bit. Because I'm all about judging people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So I think that is, and that is how I look at people. But that may be just me. So Renee asks, do you think Meghan is a narcissist and Harry was targeted? I think so. I mean, we've heard that she wore his mother's perfume to their first date. And I think she had Tom Bauer said she basically had researched everything she could about Harry before going on a date with him. And so I think she was able to, they're kind of a toxic combination of like almost like perfect, she's a narcissist, he's desperate to please her. And so it's kind of this toxic, perfect storm in a way. And I think he was just desperate to be married to. He saw the happiness his brother had and didn't just kind of understand that the happiness his brother has, I think, and this is just my personal feelings about, great relationships that tend to last, is that they're based on friendship, not necessarily on, like, how do I don't want to say not passion, because I think passion's there, but it's that thing where it's like, after passion fades, you're left with the friendship. And if the friendship's not there, the relationship most likely will fall apart, because that great love could crumble if you're not actually friends. Because at the end of the day, you're basically end up being your best friends. I think that's what makes good marriages, but that's just maybe me. Vergisa says, hi, Brittany, Laura from Prague. Hello. I want to go to Prague one day. That would be my thing. And I just wanted to ask, so I've looked into this, and let me know in the comments and stuff if you all are interested. And it's this group called Trova Trip. And so they do kind of group guided people with people from like Instagram and YouTube, and they have like a specific itineraries. And I've looked, and there's like one in the UK, there's a couple in France, and there's a couple in Italy and stuff like that. And I don't know how much I could personalize it, but I just did think it would be fun one day to kind of do like tours with you all and just like go to Europe and stuff and have like fun time going to castles. So if that's something that's of interest to you, let me know. Regina asked, what made you love to follow royalty? I think it was a combination of things. I love history. That was my major in college. I love history, all parts of history pretty much, but Europe especially is probably my area where I love it the most. I love jewelry. I actually would go to the library, and I actually bought the book because I wanted to have it after I kind of started the channel and stuff. It's called The Queen's Jewels. It's like from the 80s or something. And so I would, flip through that at my library, and I had like photocopy pages of the really pretty things. And then I had gone and actually done a report on the Cullinan diamond, which is in the imperial scepter, the imperial crown. And it's the largest flawless diamond in the world. And I love fashion, and I kind of love that bit of celebrity and, gossip and stuff. So I feel like royalty combines all of my like favorite things together. So that's kind of why I enjoy it. And honestly, at this point, it's like, I don't really want to follow the Kardashians. None of their fashion does like anything for me the vast majority of the time. And, they just seem kind of trashy. And I like the classiness of royalty, and I wish we had more of that back in our culture. It kind of reminds me of like the 50s heyday of Hollywood, which was very much a lot of it was fake. But I love Grace Kelly, and I love kind of the old, Alfred Hitchcock movies and those sorts of things. So that's I think that's fun. Erica asked, did you see the Raffles commercial take his title? I don't think I have. I don't think I have. One Justice says, congratulations on one of your recent subscribers. Love your channel. Oh, I thank you. It's been like a lot of work, but it's just been so fun. Mostly Sky asked, will you be reading from Harry's book when it comes out? Yes. So I will request, and I need to get on this. I kind of had this weird thing this week where I fell down the stairs a bit at work, and I like scraped up my shin real bad. And so I just kind of like vegged for a day, and then like have struggled because it's like kind of nasty, but it is healing because it's starting to itch. So I know it's healing. But I do want to reach out because there's been a couple books that have come out. So I'll reach out to the publishers. I don't think they would send, because they didn't for Valentine Low. I got a actual digital copy of his book the day it released, not before. So I will request books because we have the new book from Angela Levin on Camilla. We have Katie Nichols' new book. We have Valentine Low's new book. And then we have Harry's book coming out. So I will go to the publishers and request them, because actually that's what I did with Tom Bauer's book. I was hoping to get an interview and I didn't. And I'll just ask them, I would like to review it for my channel. I have, X number of subscribers and views and those sorts of things. And I was a lot smaller when I asked for Tom Bauer. And so now that I have a lot more, because I had just like, I wanted to like hit, I think it was just 10,000 I wanted to hit before I requested. And so now I'm almost to 50. So that's huge difference. And I have millions more views. So I'll go ahead and request that. And what they do is you request it, they give it to you, and you can review it. And that's what I did for the Tom Bauer book. I kind of went through and highlighted my biggest portions. I'll maybe try to pull that back because those videos ended up being extremely long. Yet at the same time, I feel like they were really helpful for those because I don't think the Valentine Low book comes out in the States until maybe even next year. But it's just something where if you have a channel like this and you're looking, and books I think are a huge part of royal stuff. I actually had a secondhand bookstore where I lived in Charlotte, but for a while when I was there, and I would go there all the time, and I would buy books, royal books, any books I can find about royalty. So Rita says, "Hi, Brittany, love to see you from East Yorkshire." Yes, yay! It's good to see you too. I love. Always Cabby says, "I love the stream." Pointing out how the Harkles didn't think through the bashing of the family. Yes, I don't know why they didn't think that through. That is just so obvious to me that, if you want something from them at some point, it's like best not to bash them and kind of wait and see. We knew the queen would die. And once that happens, the transition of power, like, any presidential administration, things change and things can change really rapidly. That this somehow escaped both Harry and Meghan, I think is just so so surprising and rather odd. Oh, Sarah says, finally made Caught Alive. This is my favorite royal news channel, along with the body language guy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you found it. Carrie says, I found your channel when you just had 10,000 subscribers. I feel like it was yesterday. It does. It does. It's grown. This last month has grown a lot. So it's been kind of crazy. Jason asks, from what I've read about Joachim and his sons, they seem like a bit of quitters in their endeavors, if that find it. I don't know a ton about Joachim and his family, although there's this kind of royal forum that I followed for a lot of years, which kind of gave me some behind the scenes of some of the things that's going on in the families, because we'll get news from like people and various sources, but they don't give us all the information. They don't give us, what don't they give us? They kind of don't give kind of everything to us in terms of, they just give us the highlights of the kind of various stories that are outside the British monarchy. That's what we get here in the States. So to actually get, the Danish royal family talking to CNN is actually quite strange in a lot of ways. So where was I going with that? So this royal forum is called Royal Dish. I know they like Joachim and Marie a lot more than Frederick and Mary. They think Frederick and Mary don't work that much, and that they like Joachim and Marie better. So, I mean, I can see some of that dynamic playing out, but I think a lot of it comes from actually Prince Joachim, his first wife, Alexandra, she's countess now, was actually very popular. People liked her a lot. And so I think some of the goodwill just comes from that, because Princess Alexandra married Joachim before actually Frederick met Mary. And so they ended up, Alexandra and Joachim ended up divorcing, I think around the time or within a couple years of Frederick and Mary getting married. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. But again, I don't think, what any royal, especially a spare, it's kind of hit and miss on what you get. It depends on the family dynamics. Those are always kind of complicated thing, but there's kind of a deep connection with Denmark, or at least within the royal family, between Denmark and France, because the queen's husband was from France and he has this kind of disputed count title. And so that's actually the title she gave her grandkids, is the title that they can use. She kind of actually created something so they can have this count and countess title, that it kind of harkens back to his disputed title he thinks he has in France. So he has passed away, and he was the one who was really, really miffed that he could not be king when his wife was the actual heir apparent. He was apparently very confused by this. He was very mad that he could not be king. It's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. Hey y'all from Dallas. It says, is Pippa named after Kate's sister? I love her name. This is from Melanie. Yes. So Pippa is, so I did hear the name and I kind of liked it, but I actually wasn't a huge Kate Middleton fan Princess Kate fan for a while. And so I kind of wanted to find, because she was a Yorkie, I was like, okay, I have to find somebody within like kind of the York dukedom that perhaps maybe has that name or has a different name that I can use, because I kind of wanted to based her off royalty in some way. And I did find a Philippa. So her technical like name, I think I've switched the names around. So don't give me. So her technical name would be like Philippa Beatrice Eugenie. But she just goes by Pippa. She doesn't know any of the other names. She thinks it's really, but yeah, she's a bit of a princess. She has a really strong opinions for being somebody who's about 7 or 8 pounds. She has very, very strong opinions about things. And she'll just stop when I'm walking her and she wants to go somewhere else. And she'll just stop and she'll just not move at all. And she's very, very stubborn. Tada asks, do a video, please, comparing Princess Ameko's exit from Japanese royal family with Harry's exit, total opposites. Yeah, so I am planning on doing a video. I just got kind of a bit behind this week, and that doing a video kind of about how Meghan really didn't have it that bad. She really didn't. There's situations that are far worse than what Meghan Markle experienced, in my opinion, in terms of kind of the pressure that they felt, or, met Marit in Norway. She has health issues. Crown Princess Victoria could not marry her husband for many years. And she's most of what I was focusing on was women who actually married into the royals, not those who just simply, were royal themselves. But there's been a lot of loss. The former queen of the Netherlands, her son died in an avalanche accident several years ago now. So that's something incredibly challenging for a family. He was on life support for several months. She would go to London to visit him. He had 2 young children. So there's a lot of, I think, loss that people don't necessarily see. And you think of Monaco as well, as you have Princess Caroline. She lost her husband in a boating accident. So there's been a lot of loss in royal families, and a lot of challenges that people have experienced, that whereas, Meghan, I'm sure, did have challenges and those sorts of things. But from my perspective, I think her biggest challenge was just not giving it time and not understanding that. And again, this is a fault of Harry. This is a fault of Meghan. That's this takes time. Like, even if I came into a royal family, it would take me a good couple of years to get oriented, really. Because even though I know quite a lot, there's a learning curve to this. This is not something you walk right into and are perfect at, and you will make mistakes and you will fall flat on your face at moments and those sorts of things. But I think sometimes there's beauty in perseverance. And I think that Meghan, I feel like, oh gosh, I really want to do a video. Meghan, how embarrassing is she as an American? I know I have a lot of Americans on here. I feel like she's so embarrassing as an American, because it's like she did not even try to take the time to learn anything about the country she lived in. I'm still not convinced she can actually tell you where Sussex is on a map of the UK. She probably could, but she spent 1 day there, and she, proudly boasts around with that title. I'm like, but you didn't even spend time there. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, come on. So just looking through here again, Asima says Harry isn't smart. Does Meghan want to be his mother? There has been a lot of talk, and you do see it, this mothering dynamic Meghan has towards Harry. And I do think that's kind of a little bit much, I think. And so he wants a mother. That's what he wants. And she has been his mother, basically. She's kind of tried to be his mother incarnate. Whereas I think if you look at Catherine and William married somebody almost the exact opposite of his mother in many ways. Whereas, Diana sometimes could be a little bit unstable, and those sorts of things. William married somebody, Diana could be vindictive at times. She could be, she was wholly empathetic, very, very charismatic. Absolutely. I think she did love the monarchy. She loved her job. And she was caught in a very, I think, damaging marriage in a lot of ways. And so William, I feel like you look at him and he went with somebody who's the complete opposite, who's very stable, comes from a very stable and loving family background. And not that, Diana didn't have love as a childhood, but she had a very difficult childhood too. Her parents divorced. That was kind of unusual at the time. So I feel like Catherine just was kind of total opposite. And you can kind of feel, I think, the maturity in one versus the other based on the spouse that they chose. Marcia says, I've just found your channel and you are a joy. Oh, I love your videos. Oh, my, thank you. You are so kind to say. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. A Catwoman 65 says, I just keep hoping for them to divorce. Yeah, I only gave them 5 years, but I think the separation in the US will maybe make it longer, because I'm not convinced they have anything in common, really, except for the fact that they come from dysfunctional backgrounds because, her parents divorced, her mother left, Harry has his own mother wound. So I think they kind of have kind of this toxic thing together. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they do, but I'm not I'm not convinced that they will probably last it to 10 years. I'd be really, really surprised because I would think the stress at some point would get to them, especially if they can't bring any of these deals to the finish line. I mean, the Spotify thing they finally did, but I feel like they really had to twist Meghan's arm to get, these episodes together. And I'm just not convinced either. I don't think she has broad appeal. I think people are kind of hate listening or hate watching, which I mean gives you watches. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's generating news, but is it generating people to subscribe? That is the question, I think. And that's what Spotify would want. I think that would be how they gain their base, is through actually getting people to pay the extra for the subscription service. And if Meghan's podcast doesn't do that, then financially it's not all that feasible. Brittany, you look exactly like my granddaughter, also named Brittany. Oh, thank you. Yes, Brittany is a popular name back in the day. It's also the name I feel like is like spelled a gajillion different ways. I've seen it spelled almost every way. Whatever spelling you have, that's fine. It works for me. Yes, a couple of people said they'd like the tour. Yes, I just think it would be so fun. It would be a lot of fun, I think, and just trying to figure out making sure they would kind of work. But yeah, I will let you know. So I actually have to ask them, and they they give you a survey, and then I'll let you guys know, and you can fill out the survey and let them know, and then I think goes from there and see what happens, because I think it would be fun again to like try to schedule things around certain royal events maybe, but it would all depend. Rebecca Sue says, hi, Brittany from South Florida. What do you think of my theory that having not one, but two redhead kids, there's got to be a third party involved in the surrogate of some sort? So I don't think so. I've always been of the opinion that Harry and Meghan, I mean, because I think honestly, Archie's hair is a bit more kind of dark auburn than kind of fire engine red that appears like Lily's is like. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. But I mean, we don't see the kids much, so it's challenging. When it comes to surrogacy, it all depends on it. Surrogacy is very complicated, and it's when it comes to the UK especially, I would be utterly shocked if they could have pulled that off in secret in the UK. I would be totally shocked, because you can't pay somebody to do it in the UK. It has to be somebody volunteering to do that. There's, questions over how it would be handled in terms of kind of the birth and how the things would be divided, and how the parenting would be officially on the record and everything. And if, you wanted to get somebody from the States, because from the States it's easy. People come to the United States to get surrogates. That's kind of become a thing. And it's not something I'm necessarily a huge fan of, because there can be, some pretty bad complications. And there's been some really weird things that have happened too from fertility clinics. So, but I think the biggest thing is that if they brought somebody from the United States to the UK, let's say, I don't know if they could have actually gotten a birth certificate if the child wasn't actually born in the US. And I don't think that the child custody would have transitioned. I just don't think they could have done it. What I think it does show that they're both the kids are both redheads, that basically, Harry has a recessive redhead gene. Meghan obviously also has a recessive redhead gene in her line. So, it feels like it really destroys kind of this, the skin tone argument they were trying to push. Is like, well, if your kids are both pale and redheads, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It was actually, so just funny side note, when my dad had done, Ancestry, because my dad had been adopted at birth. And so for a while in Ancestry, and it went away, and I was so bummed, because I wanted to know so much if like what was going on. And for a while, there was like a 5%, like 0.5, not 5%, 0.5% from Cameroon. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? That is so cool. Who is this person? How do we get? And then it went away. And I was very, very, very bummed about that, because I just thought that was like, oh, that's so cool. Because then that would mean I would be like 0.25% from Cameroon. And I'd be like, that's so awesome. But I'm just mostly from the UK and a little bit from Scandinavia, but obviously I have very pale skin and blue, kind of sometimes greenish eyes. Sorry, Pippa is making her presence known. So I did get a question that my mom pulled out because she's been watching. So hi, Mom. Kimberly asked, she wanted to know if Prince didn't become king and remained prince, why will Kate become a queen title? Also, she said she loves Will and Kate. So, because I meant to get my mom on here to help me moderate, and then I got behind this morning. But when it comes to Prince Philip, so this is kind of how it works, and it was the same with Henrik in Denmark, and it will be same when Crown Princess Victoria is queen, when Prince Ingrid Alexandra is queen, when Princess Leonor in Spain is queen, and when Princess Elizabeth in Belgium is queen. So yes. Oh, and Princess Catherine Amelia in the Netherlands. So the future is female when it comes to Europe. We will see a lot of female consorts, female monarchs here coming up really soon. And the reason that a queen becomes, you can have a queen and a prince is because the queen is the actual heir to the throne and she is the actual ruler, and she can't have the man having a higher title than she does. Because if he has the higher title of king, I mean, that's a higher title, ergo she should listen to him. But if she is the blood royal, if she is the one who is the actual person ruling, then she needs to be above her husband. So it'll be always the case that with Crown Princess Victoria, her husband, Prince Daniel, will still be Prince Daniel. That's what he'll be when she's queen. So she'll be Queen Victoria, and he will be Prince Daniel. And same thing with, we had Queen Margrethe of Denmark, and her husband was Prince Henrik. And then, you have the same with in the Netherlands, the former Queen Beatrice, her husband Klaus, I think was his name. He's died. He passed away several years ago now. And he said he was also prince. He was not a king. So that's kind of how those things work, which seems kind of, I mean, I guess you could call it sexist. I don't know. So yeah. And I mean, there was always, of course, rumors that Camilla would become Princess Camilla or Princess Consort or something instead of Queen Camilla, which is why the Queen released that statement saying she was okay with Camilla becoming Queen Consort. And obviously we won't use the Queen Consort title much. Sorry, Pippa's scrolling around on my lap. We won't, because it's just easier to call her Queen Camilla, just like it'll be easier to call Catherine Princess Catherine instead of Catherine the Princess of Wales. It's just becomes a lot easier. And because Duchess Catherine never caught on, unfortunately, which was, I mean, that's probably okay because then we'd have to change it. But it always drove me nuts when People magazine would call her Princess Kate when she was still the Duchess of Cambridge. It's like, just call her Duchess Kate. Stop calling her Princess Kate, because it's not even kind of sort of right. Now it is kind of sort of right, but still not great. When is the video with your sister, Julie asked? So yes, we were going to do a kind of a whatchamacallit, a podcast together. So I would still like to do that. I think that would be fun. I don't know, because she also has a job outside too. I don't know if she would want to appear on video or not, because I thought, doing a video podcast would be fun, but because it's kind of helpful to see the pictures of what we're talking about and stuff like that. But I also just wasn't sure if we were going to do that. So we shall see. And we have a neighbor coming by. So Jennifer asked, this is a good question, Miss Pippa. Do you think Harry should be permitted to edit his book? So I think that's a really interesting question, because if I was the editor, I mean, obviously they kind of want to please him, and they want to please, and they obviously probably have they want to please him, but at the same time, it's like, they're like, probably like, we have great content. Why do we want to edit this? It's controversial. It's all these sorts of things. But I think also what Harry and Meghan are really, really starting to run into is that there is, I think they're looking less and less authentic as time goes on. And they're also, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of questions about their integrity. And if you're constantly editing, if you're saying, well, I said that, but I don't want to say that anymore. And it's like, well, why was it not true to begin with? Like, why are you changing your mind now? If you always knew you shouldn't have said it, then why did you say it? And I think that's the title they're really starting to run into, is that I'm I think they look bad when they're like, oh, well, we want to edit it now. We want to edit it now. I'm like, do you really need to edit it now? Like, do you really need to do that? Because again, I feel like they're starting to look kind of bad and kind of really inconsistent. And so I think that is something, just something to really consider, I feel like is something. And so, and then Trevor's on here. Hi, Trevor. I don't know if you're still here or not. Okay. Julie asks, I used to love the body language vibe, but I wish you would do edited only. Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad you like the style of mostly planned ones and then doing a live about once a week, which I feel like is kind of fun because I get to interact with you guys, which is a lot of fun. And so I just really do enjoy that. I think it's fun. And just getting your questions, that helps me think of different video ideas too. And I just really kind of enjoy that because it's like, it helps me think, okay, what are you guys thinking about? Because I want to make sure I have my own ideas too. And just kind of what are you doing? And I'll thank you, Trevor, for the shout out to get to 50K. Yes, it's so close. It's so close. Let's see. Just looking through here. And yes, reminder, if you guys have questions, put them in all caps. That kind of helps me find it. And just looking through, dukedoms and earls are popular titles that are passed down. I heard can't be taken away without an act of parliament. Why are the princehood any different? I don't know about taking away a prince title. I've never actually heard that before. So that'll be interesting to see if that's even possible. I don't think it'll be. But, when it comes to dukedoms, yes, I had even somebody ask me, I was like, well, why don't we strip the dukedom from the Duke of Westminster and the Duke of Norfolk? And I'm like, no, like, why would we do that? Because I think their argument was, well, if we're stripping Harry, we should strip all the dukes. And it's like, well, some of them have held those titles for centuries. Harry's only held that title for less than 5 years. And they have connections to the throne, but they were never taking any government money. They never were really part of this kind of huge, what you call it, they've never been, their security has never been provided by the government. They have their kind of own huge bank accounts, especially the Duke of Westminster. He's richer than any of the royals in terms of just liquid assets, and they put it in trust so that they can kind of protect it, which is really smart. It's very, very smart to put your money in trust, because that way you can protect it against the inheritance tax that comes into play. And so that's why I'll oftentimes, if you're smart and you have like land in this duke title, like the Earl Spencer, what he should do is, Charles, he should put everything in trust. That way, when it goes down to his son, he doesn't have to pay as much on the inheritance taxes, because the Duke of Westminster is worth like $10 billion or something like that. He's worth a lot of money because he has the best real estate possible. And it's funny, they haven't held that title for that long, really, because it was handed down, I think, during Queen Victoria's reign. TT Doll, I'm so sorry. I just saw your tip. Thank you so much. Megan reminds me of Shaman Durek in Norway. She does a bit. So this is Princess Martha Louise, who talks to angels. I'm kind of glad she's not going to be the Queen of Norway. The Norwegians are kind of, I feel like a lot more casual than the rest of the royal households in a lot of ways, which I think can be really great. Martha Louise, though, she kind of just pushes it, I feel like, almost a bit too much. But I do feel very, very sorry for her, because I do feel like Shaman Durek kind of found her in a very vulnerable moment. Her ex-husband committed suicide on Christmas Day, and she had 3 daughters with him. So, and he would have been 50. I just saw her social media post. He would have turned 50 yesterday or the day before. So I just thought that was really quite sad that, I feel like he was able to kind of target them in a time of kind of, immense grief. And that's kind of, I thought, very, very sad, and that they've lost somebody like that. And so it's just kind of very sad to hear. So it'll be, but yeah, he just seems very, very, very sketchy, and like he really, really enjoys the connection to the throne, because that is a, the connection to the throne thing, that still remains huge. People want that power of the throne. And so to get that connection is kind of a huge thing. Even if it's kind of peripheral, even if the house is not big, you can say, well, my My father-in-law is the king of Norway. Although I feel bad because I feel like Harold is not doing very well. The poor king, he's really struggling to get around now. John Alvarez says, do you use a laptop for this live stream? I do. And then I also have a camera, a web camera, so I can have a bit of a better picture. And I also have usually have a mic here, but I was scrambling this morning and I could not find my mic or the cord for my mic. So, sorry. I should have closed the blinds, but she likes looking outside. So she'll make her presence known every once in a while. Hi, Brittany. Julie asks, hi, Brittany. Are the European royals blood related to the British royals? Like the czars are related to them? Thanks for the live stream. Yes. So that is actually true. There's a lot of connection between the British royals and the rest of Europe in terms of bloodlines, particularly because Queen Victoria married off her children to a lot of the royals. Now, I will say it's mostly like the Protestant royals. So you're looking at, Norway, Sweden. Well, I'm not sure about Sweden exactly, but Denmark. I believe there's connections to Spain, even though that is a Catholic country. There's family connections in Spain as well. And the Netherlands. So the Norwegian royals are actually highest on the line of succession in terms of foreign royal households. They're pretty high in the British line of succession, really, because the British line of succession goes into the thousands. I can't remember how long it goes out, but it goes into the thousands. So I know the Norwegians are on there. The Dutch are on there. And if they change to the Catholic Church, they will no longer be on there. We also have Prince Ernst of Hanover. So that is in Germany. So he was married. I mean, he's still technically married to Princess Caroline of Monaco, and they've been married for 20 plus years, but it seemed close, like the first 5. I think they've almost been married 25 years because their daughter, Princess Alexandra, is over 20 now. I'm pretty sure. And so they've stayed married, but they're not like really married in a lot of ways. So they just kind of both do their own thing. So their children are on the line of succession, except for except for their daughter Alexandra. So he has other children from a different marriage, and so they're on the British line of succession. Alexandra is not. She is on because she is Catholic, so she is kind of very much closer to the Monaco royal throne than she is to Hanover. But obviously there's no throne really in Hanover anymore. It's just kind of a title and a castle that one of the princes donated to the country, which set off a confrontation with his dad. Apparently his dad was not too happy about that. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like these families are all very interconnected. And, even if they are not currently, so like the line they married into has died, let's say, and when it comes to Spain. So, Catherine of Aragon, she married King Henry VIII. And so her parents were King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain, same as, Columbus. And so he married over into she married over into the UK. They had a daughter, Mary. Mary died without children. So ergo, that line died. And then you had King William of Orange, who married Princess Mary because they were kind of joint monarchs, kind of almost a bit of England and the Netherlands. So they went over to England to rule. They still had some connections to the Netherlands because the Kingdom of Orange is the Netherlands. And so he ended up, once they passed away, I think one of their kids or something, or they actually, maybe it was William, because Mary was the heir to the English throne. William was the heir to the Dutch throne. And I think they came back because that also played into the Stuart diamond situation. Because the Stuart diamond, which is like this 40-carat diamond that the Dutch still have, that Queen Maxima can wear in tiara, that is the kind of the big Stuart tiara, is so that family, so that kind of played into that kind of mingling of the Stuart lines between the British and the Dutch, played into actually their fight in like the 1700s over this massive light blue diamond. And so again, that's a lot to say that yes, there is a ton of interconnection between these royal families. They're in each other's line of successions oftentimes. And when it comes to Queen Victoria, she's the grandmother of Protestant Europe. And I've heard this, and forgive me if I'm not saying it, if I'm not actually right, but I believe it's actually the Duke of Orleans. So this was King Louis XIV, his brother. He is kind of considered like the godfather of Godfather grandfather, sorry, grandfather. I was like, I knew I was saying that wrong. Grandfather of Catholic Europe. So a lot of the descendants of Catholic Europe come from his line, if I'm remembering that correctly. So they have kind of these deep, again, deep connections between these royal families. And so it's just kind of very, very interesting to see. And so yes, and then yeah, thank you again, Trevor, for the shout out to get to 50K. That would be I would hope to get there this weekend, but we will see. Sarah Jean says, and this is just kind of good, an ending the Earth shot event. So I think you're talking about maybe the or moonshot event, the Earth shot. So I will be. I do have my airline tickets and my hotel reserved for the Earthshot Prize in Boston this December. So I'm very excited about that. And that should be very, very fun. And I'm hoping to perhaps, I don't know, I'll just see what I can get. I'll ask for press access and everything. So yes, if you want to subscribe and you haven't already, please do, because the more subscribers I have, the easier it'll probably be for me to ask and request for press access and actually get it. So if you haven't done that, that would be awesome. Brittany, who is a Scooby, that whack-a-mole insider for Harry and Meghan? So Omid Scobie is a reporter. He was previously with Us Weekly, and I did actually look it up because I'm like, did he ever do anything about the royals before Harry and Meghan came into the picture? And the answer is yes. So I was able to find out that he was writing for Us Weekly and covering the royals before Harry and Meghan. But kind of the thought is, and kind of the rumor, I guess, is that Meghan got connected with him through someone connected with Soho House. Because I feel like all the trails lead back to Soho. It almost makes me want to ask for a membership at some point, just so I could see if I could find out the juice behind the scenes when it comes to that. Because a lot of roads with Meghan lead back to the Soho House, which I don't totally get. But so he is basically, I mean, the British press, I mean, they basically make fun of him. They straight up make fun of him and just talk about how he's basically the piece. And it's just kind of super interesting to see that. And he just doesn't have a lot of respect among the journalists. And yet he pokes at others. Like he poked at Angela Levin for her Camilla book not doing great. And he's like, oh, look, she's not on the #1 list. And I was like, oh, come on. I mean, granted, I don't think Camilla would have been a book that flew off the shelves. But I just thought that was just tacky to kind of say, oh, look, her book's not doing well. That I just feel like that would be tacky. That's just me. Aurelia says, any thoughts on the Dukedom of Edinburgh? So yes, Dukedom of Edinburgh is supposed to go to Prince Edward and his wife, Sophie, but we haven't actually seen that yet. And I was really hoping we would. And it's just been so surprising that we have not seen Edward and Sophie actually get that yet. That may be something that comes after the coronation, and maybe something Charles is not feeling that he wants to do anymore. But this has been something talked about for a long time. If I was reading and remembering correctly, it actually was something that was discussed like around the time Sophie and Edward got married over 20 years ago. So it's kind of surprising he hasn't done it, but it may be something too where Charles is just still feeling a bit raw and still like, well, let's just give it a little bit of time. And maybe something where he does it after the coronation, which is supposedly next year, and maybe on the anniversary of his mother's coronation. At least that's when I have my hotel reservations for. So hopefully it's around that time. If not, I'll make new reservations. That's fine. But it'll just be interesting, really interesting to see when that happens. And I think it's good. I think that would be a good thing, and I think it would show that that Charles is looking to the future. But I understood like the immediate thing he needed to do was make Catherine and William Prince and Princess of Wales. I think in part because nobody wants to say the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge a lot. That would get old fast. That would get old really, really fast. So I'm glad he did that, because I think that it was a smart decision to just go ahead and go, we're not going to play this game, just give him the titles. And I think he was so relieved to not be the Prince of Wales anymore. He was like, here, take it. Because he just was like, yay, I'm king. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, it's this spoof show. It is rated MA, just an FYI, mostly for language. And it's they're called The Windsors, and you can find it on Netflix. And it's basically a satire of the British royals. And It's not there's some parts of it I don't get. I would love to watch it with, like, a British audience. Maybe we should do a watch party or something because I don't understand why they make Kate's family, gypsies. I don't get that at all. They make them travelers, and I'm like, I don't understand why exactly what's that coming from, but the actor guy who plays Charles, who I think does a pretty good job, kind of, makes he's just all about he's like, "Well, I wanna be king. I'm going to be king." And so I feel like that is definitely true to Charles. I feel like that is true. And who can blame the guy? He's been waiting for the throne for 70 years. Oh, Lady Jane Grey, thank you so much for the tip. Paint the wall behind you. Oh, yes, maybe we'll be able to do that at some point. I will be moving again at some point. So I'll have a new setup and hopefully a bit of a more kind of permanent, because this was kind of a stopgap, more of a permanent um kind of setups to where I can have like an actual studio. So I don't have to, because I do it in my room now and I don't have a ton of space. So I have this like little corner and I can put these lights exactly here and the tripod exactly here. That's the best I can do. So hopefully maybe at some point I will have more space and to be able to do some more things. Asma asked, do you have any updates regarding the home office being sued security? I have not. We haven't heard any updates on that. Obviously, now Harry's not suing his grandmother, he's suing his father. And that starts to look really complicated. And I mean, part of it too, I think, is that the Queen's private secretary, I don't think will be there much longer if he's still there. Because he worked for the Queen, and Charles will have his own private secretary that he wants. And we've already heard that, kind of notices went out to Clarence's house. And I'm sure, I can't remember his name. Is it Edward Young? I think it's Edward Young. Edward Young is the was part of this whole thing that Harry has this huge vendetta against. Well, Edward Young may be out of a job here before too long, or he maybe have a different role or position. So what is Harry really suing about? I think he still just really, really wants that security. I think Harry and Meghan are kind of freaking out of how much security is draining their bank account. Now, I've said this before. I think they do need security. I think that is smart of them. Do they need 24-hour security? Do they need live-in security? That I'm not quite as sure about because they live in a gated community in Montecito, California. I know crime is going up generally in California, but that's pretty safe and it has gates. It's pretty safe too. And while I'm sure a lot of celebrities do also have security, I don't think they have security living with them 24/7, which I feel like Harry and Meghan have, because I feel like they've inflated themselves so much, but they also too just poke the press and poke people, and I think irritate people. And so I think to a certain extent, they make themselves kind of bigger security targets than they need to be. And if they kind of would calm down a bit, maybe that would be better. But I think some of their security, I think their belief that they need like this huge, massive amount of security all the time, I think is a bit ridiculous. But I could definitely see them wanting that internationally protected person status back because that was one of their demands when they did Brexit. I remember seeing it. And I remember going, they want people to pay for the security? And it's like, I think they still do. I think they absolutely want people to still pay. I think it's pronouncing right. Amy asks, Milgard, thank you so much for the tip. She says, love your channel. Do you think Harry is traumatized by his parents' marriage and that he is afraid to fail on his own marriage with Meghan? Yes, I could completely see. Harry is traumatized by his parents' relationship. And I think the trauma is compounded in that he doesn't really understand what happened. I think we heard from Tom Bauer. He wrote in his book that William did this kind of fact-finding mission about his mom and his parents, I think. And I think that was a huge thing it's like a growth thing. It helps you understand better. It gives you takes you out of that perspective of a child and gives you that perspective as an adult. And I feel like that's what William did to his benefit. And I think that helped in his choice to choose Kate over, perhaps somebody else trying to seek out a replacement for his mother. Because, Catherine's nothing like his mother. He didn't pick out a replacement. He picked out a woman who he feels like is perfect for him rather than trying to replace his mother, which is what Harry has done. And I feel like Harry, it's not only that he's afraid to fail, he's terrified of failing to protect her and protect Meghan like he failed to protect his mother. And that goes back to a child wound. I completely understand his mentality behind that. And I feel like Meghan pokes and prods at that wound. And so I feel like Harry, when he's looking at all this, he's just really, really struggling to, oh gosh, I was going somewhere with that. And I feel he's not just afraid to fail, he's afraid to protect her. And I feel like, again, she's focusing in on that. She's prodding that. She's making that fear of his worse. And it's just to his detriment, I think, to his mental health. That's just not kind to somebody. It's to kind of prey on their insecurities, I feel like. And I can't say for certain, but I feel like that's a bit what happens with Meghan, is that she preyed on his insecurities, and that has made him kind of worse in so many ways. And I feel like that is, been damaging to his self-esteem, his psyche. Asma asked, will you live stream Earthshot? I probably won't be able to live stream it because I won't probably have like the equipment for that, but I will like live stream afterward. I may be able to live stream from the event. I'll try to work on figuring out if I can get the equipment together to actually do something like that. The question is how many press are there? Because when you have a lot of people in places, it's hard to get internet. And I don't have like a big satellite truck. That would be awesome, but I don't have a big satellite truck. So it may be something where, I do it kind of as I'm at the event, or I film bits while I'm there, and then I come back and I share it. But it'll all kind of depend. But I will do a live stream while I'm there. It may be just from the hotel, and maybe from somewhere in Boston that I find. But I will definitely do that because I want to bring you all along for the ride, because it is so fun. Asma asked, since we're talking about the titles, is I heard they don't want the titles. That is what Harry and Meghan have said initially, is that they didn't want the titles. And it was just kind of, I actually applaud them for that at the time, because I was like, oh, great. You get it. You understand that, Archie, this is where everybody else in Europe is going. He, doesn't need the title. He won't be a working member of the royal family. That is fantastic. Bravo. I actually thought that was fantastic of Harry and Meghan to do. I was impressed. And then it comes out on the Oprah Winfrey interview. Oh, no, it was all about, the color of his skin, and nobody wanted him to be a title. And then towards the end of the interview, she's like, yeah, the letters of patents. It's like, okay, so what did you want? Did you want the title, or did you not want the title? Because that is a big, that's a huge thing, is for you to say, oh, no, we didn't want the title. We never did. And it's like, really? And then you're backtracking, because even Omid Scobie, because he was one of the people who tweeted us like, oh, this goes along with what we know about Harry and Meghan. They want to raise their kids privately. They want to raise them, outside the public eye, and they want to, them to have their own jobs and those sorts of things. And all of a sudden he was like backtracking. It was like some sort of Twitter thread, and I think I screenshot it, but I can't remember. And just kind of like attacking someone for saying that, that it's not set in stone that they'll get those titles. And he's like, oh yeah, there will, or something like that. And it's like, well, dude, you can't even stand by your own word. Harry and Meghan can't stand by their word. And so it would have been a lot simpler if they had just said, for now, we're just not going to give him a title, but we'll readdress it at some point. No, what they said is they did not want a title for their kids. And that they all of a sudden backtrack on that, I think makes them look really, really bad. Karen says the Windsors is brilliant. Harry Enfield plays Charles. He's wonderful. He does do a great Charles. He really does. And I think the guy who plays Harry in the first couple seasons, who plays him, he's a pretty dense guy. It's really, really funny. I think it's actually really, really good. I am with River on the Dumbartons issue. Make them the Dumbartons. That would be kind of funny. But I think again, it just does make sense for Archie and Lily not to have titles, or just to be the Earl of Dumbarton, and then he can inherit his father's title, the Duke of Sussex, if Harry still has it. And again, these issues of titles, they can be taken away. And we've seen that in Denmark. They can kind of be taken away on a whim. So Harry and Meghan better watch out. Ashley Claire, thank you so much for the tip. You said, my mom and I were talking about Harry and Meghan last night. My mom said they didn't think this through. I do think Charles will help him if he divorces. Yes, I think so. Again, we've seen the Windsors. I was really impressed with them at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. I thought they did a fantastic job showing the world that they are a family unit. And that does them enormous good for when the Harry and Meghan things falls apart. Because I think what this Valentine Low book and the Tom Bower book and other books have done is dismantle this narrative that Meghan has created for herself. And I'll do a video on that because we didn't get much. I'll see what Valentine Low comes out with in the next article for the Daily Mail, which should come out today, sometime later today, and look at it and see if there's anything kind of newer that we can focus on, because most of what he said was already put in the Times. But I think it's important to talk about how she's kind of this narrative she's concocted for herself, kind of built seemingly on lies. I mean, maybe not all of it is, but it seems like, if your facade is crumbling, that means there wasn't much there to begin with. And so I just look at all that and I think to myself, Meghan really did herself a disfavor by concocting this fakery. And at some point it was always going to be found out. It was always going to fall apart. And I think that, the Windsors will come alongside Harry. And again, they'll make Meghan look like she is the issue. And I think that's what they've done by coming together and being this collective family unit and kind of keeping Harry and Meghan on the periphery. It's very clear that Harry and Meghan are the issue, that it's not the family, it's them. I think if you look at all that, because they're just not interacting with them. They're not chatting with them. They ignore them because, again, they don't want their comments and their thoughts and their deepest feelings to come out on Oprah. And I think that is kind of the biggest thing. Oh, interesting. Emily said a resident on Oracoke Island in North Carolina told me that Harry and Meghan wanted to buy Springer's Point, and they have tried to make the private island so the islanders refuse to sell them. That's weird. I have not heard that before. That's so strange. Seaward, sorry. Do you think Lady Louise will be a working royal when she graduates from university? No. I think she would be lovely, but she's too far down the line of succession. I could see them elevating Beatrice or Eugenie. I like Beatrice and I like Eugenie too. I think Beatrice especially has a great love for the UK, the history of her family. So I would be all for that, but I don't think so. And again, Charles is going for the streamlined monarchy. And while again, I think the Brits are misconstruing the fact that, they have huge territories that they're heads of state of. So I think it makes it a bit harder for them to kind of go as streamlined as they're going. And I feel like they need somebody perhaps a bit younger. Lady Louise, she'll have her own career or her own life. And so I think that'll be a good thing for her. So guys, I'll just look through here and see if there's any other questions. I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up because I actually have lunch plans today. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm so sorry I got on here a little bit late, but let's see if there's any other questions that maybe, or comments that may be good to chat about. Heather says, I don't think Eugenie is loyal anymore. Did you see the way her husband looked at Prince Harry? Yeah, there's a lot of questions, I think, about how Eugenie is close with Harry, but I think it is good to have a family member who is kind of close to them. And I wonder if that is Eugenie's role, is to keep those Harry and Meghan titles there, or connections there. Sharon asked, what will Camilla's title be once William is king? So, that is an interesting question. I guess she would be the Dowager Queen. I think she would still technically be queen, but she wouldn't be queen consort anymore. She would just be Queen Camilla, I think, to a certain extent. So I think that would be interesting. And Patricia G says, Catherine in Windsor and Madeleine. Yes, so Madeleine is in Florida and Catherine was in Windsor this week, having a reception with members of the Navy. And then we have one more title. Heidi asked, why didn't Queen Margrethe take the titles away when the kids were younger? That is a good question, I think. And so I think she should have, or she should have said, well, from this point, we won't do X, Y, and Z. Because I think it is hard, especially when you're a lot older. And apparently they've been said that they will lose their titles at a certain point. But guys, I think we will go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you so much for watching. Miss Pippa is so excited that she could join you guys today. she thought this was so fun and that she was excited to let you guys hear about the neighbors and their doings. That was very fun for her. So her tail's wagging. You can't tell, but her tail is wagging. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday. And I hope you guys, I will be doing, again, I won't probably be doing this next Saturday because I'll be actually out of town. And I'm really excited because I'm actually hoping to get some coverage of something while I'm there. And if I can, I will let you know because it is really, really cool. So guys, again, thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to seeing you guys again so soon. Bye.